Okay, why the hell doesn't Spirit Halloween or, like, any costume outlet carry Two-Face suits? You want a good Two-Face jacket with, like, black on one side, white on the other or something, you have to order it from China! Also, I have no experience with makeup. I scribbled this on with the marker they have in grade school, so pretty much the jankest Two-Face costume ever.
Last time, we took a look at The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, a tie-in game to a show I have never watched where you wander a zombie apocalypse just kinda dicking around and having your car break down for hours, all before failing to get evacuated because 11 seasons of show still needed to happen. But now that the prequel is out of the way, I have a firm foundation for The Walking Dead Destinies, a 2023 video game adapting the first 4 seasons of the television show. Except while Survival Instinct came to us from Terminal Reality, late of the Tomb Raider series and that Ghostbusters game that everyone said was mediocre until they hated the new movies worse, Destinies instead came to us from publisher Game Mill. Game Mill shot into the spotlight in 2023 for both Destinies and Skull Island Rise of Kong, the latter of whom's dev team blew the whistle on Game Mill being a weapons-grade piece of shit. They grievously rush and underfund their studios and will even have them make generic prototype games while Game Mill secures a cheap license to paste over them. Rise of Kong, for its part, was rushed out in a single year and buggy as balls. So to say that my expectations of Destinies are low is a grievous understatement. Also, I'm playing on the PlayStation 4 and on medium difficulty, 2 decisions that I'm certain won't imminently come back to bite me in the ass. The game begins with you playing as Rick Grimes, who wakes up in a hospital without a single word as to who he is or how he got there, and you start wandering aimlessly through a tutorial. You run into zombies and are told to avoid them using stealth. You're harder to detect while crouching, you have a detective vision to highlight zombies on their patrol paths, and you have inexplicable fart clouds for cover. This part is actually misleading. There are only like 3 fart clouds all game. After a quick jog past the zombies to escape the hospital, you get a cheap as hell text crawl explaining that Rick's a sheriff's deputy that was in a coma after a shooting. He's looking for his wife and son, and he's starting in his hometown, where he meets an old guy named Morgan in an ungodly cheap cutscene comprised entirely of still shots. Yeah, for some reason, cough, Game Mill screwed them on budget, cough! They decided that every cutscene in the game should be made of still frames of the cheap, waxy, plastic-looking 2 console generations out-of-date, uncanny valley-ass character models posing with dumb looks on their faces like they're flaunting how sharp the graphics are. They all look laughable, and several of the cutscenes have the models with such atrocious facial animations, you'd think it was intentional sabotage to protest the shit show development. You know what? Let's just get all the artistry out of the way now in Cutscene Theater! Some of the cutscenes are actually blurry, and some are low-res like you were streaming off an ancient YouTube video. Seriously, what the hell? Whatever, the tutorial continues and you're shown how to do combat. At all times you have a knife as well as a melee weapon of your choice. You can just bludgeon the enemies to death with your melee weapon, but it's faster to land one hit and then push square for an instant kill stab attack. You can also stab enemies that you catch unaware in stealth, and stomp enemies to death if they're crawling on the ground for whatever reason, both of which are a one-shot kill. Seems pretty simple, until you get to the catch. The game has a stamina meter, and for reasons that I will never be able to comprehend, stabbing a single enemy in the head drains all of your stamina, leaving you effectively helpless until that stamina recharges. Yes, the game expects you to believe that stabbing someone with a sharp-ass hunting knife, literally what it's explicitly designed to do, is some kind of Herculean task that uses every ounce of your strength to where you can't lift your arms anymore without a break. No, better, beating someone repeatedly with a bat, with several heavy overhead swings and wind-ups, is vastly less physically taxing than a single stab wound. What? Oh, and you can combat roll past zombies. that uses up stamina too. So basically the game is rigged to where you flat out can't fight more than a single zombie at a time, and try not to be shocked, you will never, ever, ever fight zombies one at a time. They travel in packs of like 4 at the minimum, and your only option is to stab one, run away, recharge, stab another one, run away, recharge, and try to keep that up until the group is dead. The game tries to push that you have the option of using either combat or stealth to get past enemies, but the combat is not really an option. So how does the stealth go as the alternative? Well, judging by the first real level, the stealth is a lost cause too! Stealth encounters are laid out with so many enemies covering each other with tight patrol patterns, overlapping lines of sight, and cramped levels with no room to maneuver. It's pretty much impossible to sneak past the enemies. You're meant to throw bottles to distract the zombies to slip past, but the bottles don't work. Bottles only actually make noise over a pathetically piss-poor range to where you have to throw them into really friggin' specific spots or else nothing happens. And you can only carry one item at a time, so one friggin' shot with the bottle is all you get. Guess wrong with your one chance to divert the enemies, and you are hosed. It seriously feels like they didn't even try to make workable stealth encounters because they figured that combat is always available as a backup. Yeah, except for...
Ah, you pricks!
Yeah. I don't know what to do, man. The combat is rigged to be utter suicide, and the stealth doesn't work worth a shit. So what does the game want from me? Maybe I can just run past the enemies. If I could figure out where the hell to go. Level layouts are garbage with no idea where your objective is, and exits that are hidden behind breakable boxes, climbable textures you can't find, or whatever. So running away doesn't work either. I'm 2 levels in, and I'm already deeply missing survival instinct. The only way that I could beat this abysmal level was to use the game's broken system, and that wasn't an adjective, that's just what they call it. Every time that you're one hit away from death, your character becomes broken, meaning that you either become panicked to where all you can do is dodge, or you get a berserker rage mode where your melee attacks kill shitloads of zombies in a single hit to exterminate enemies with impunity. Either way, if you survive for several seconds, the broken wears off and you go back to normal. I shit you not, the game's systems are so unbalanced across the board that triggering the near-death last resort over and over was the only way that I got through enough fights to clear a lot of these early levels. It is sad and ridiculous how much this game doesn't work. And you still can't count on the broken system since getting broken leaves you with a status ailment called a scar that cripples you anyway. So no matter what, you're screwed! Rick goes to Atlanta because he heard some survivors are holed up there, but he gets abruptly dumped in with a shitload of zombies. And by the way, please get killed during this section, because when you respawn, you get to watch the zombies warp back into the stage one by one. It's like I'm watching the map editor trying to finish the game in real time. But then it cuts over to some dude named Glenn who saves Rick, and then there's a cutscene where it jumps over to Merle and some other people we've never seen before out of nowhere. I have no idea who these people are. The game won't stop to introduce anybody, and Michael Rooker looks about 20 years older than he's supposed to be. You get a story choice where you can either stop Merle or try to talk him down, and then we cut to Shane, Rick's former partner who's living with his wife and son. Would you pick one character and stick with it? Yeah, it's pretty clear that non-fans of The Walking Dead are not welcome here, because this game won't explain anything that's going on with any of these people. Backgrounds, character arcs, and interpersonal relationships and dramas have all been chucked out the door to abridge the show down to its most skeletal of plot points. How is this supposed to appeal to fans of the show when they set fire to 90% of said show? Well, here's how. At multiple points in the story, you're given the chance to determine how the story plays out, and you can deviate from the official canon of the show multiple times for an entire web of what-if stories. In theory, the first choice comes when you find Merle trying to kill a black guy because he's a racist, and you can choose to handcuff Merle to a fence or try just talking him down. Except, I don't know who any of these people are to make an informed choice.
So for someone like me who knows nothing about the series, you might as well just flip a coin. Oh yeah, Forgot about that. Oh! Fortune smiles, another day of wine and roses. Or in Merle's case, beer and pizza.
So I talked Merle down, and everyone just immediately left the two people trying to kill each other alone, and Merle leaves T-Dog to die. I take it that Rick is kind of a moron. I'm given to understand that this is actually different from how it went down in the show, so hey, Merle is on my crew. I got one of the show's big villains to stay a good guy. How is his presence going to shape future events and twist the story in new directions? Merle is never mentioned in the story again. He just casually hangs around in the background, and that's it. The game's entire selling point is a big, fat lie. Alright, Shane is Rick's former partner who's been taking care of his wife Lori and his son Carl.
Still gotta find food for those folks. For Lori and Carl.
Or Coral, as it's apparently pronounced. And it's also left kind of vague that maybe Shane told Lori that Rick was dead, so Rick returning to unite both groups into one team of survivors creates tension. Now, in between levels, you're taken to a headquarters where you can chat with all the other survivors in between missions, and the game urges you to get acquainted with your group, so let's get to know these people.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
Alright, thanks. That was super informative. There is nothing to do at your headquarters between missions. At best, there will be one optional prompt to settle an argument. A paragraph explains that two people are fighting, you pick one to side with, the game gives you some skill points regardless of your choice, and the choice affects nothing and is never brought up again. See, now I'm curious if this is a Gollum situation where character relations had to be axed in mid-development, or if they just really could not think of anything else to justify the hideouts. The game has an upgrade system where you can collect skill points by picking up diaries and stereos during the levels, and no, I am not making that up. And you also get skill points from expeditions, where characters will go out on missions, you get asked one 50-50 question during a level, and then skill points may or may not happen. What's interesting is that the upgrades that are available to purchase are determined by what survivors are still alive in your group. This is the one tangible impact that storyline decisions actually have on the game. Coral's first upgrade reduces the duration of the Berserker Rage thing that happens when you nearly die, so there's a solid argument to be made that he makes you worse! And hold on, when the hell did I pick up Carol, Daryl, and Dale? I don't know who any of these people are! A good chunk of the upgrades just get you bonus attacks for individual weapons that I never ever used, or power up specific firearms. And then Merle's first two upgrades dramatically improve your stamina by refilling it faster and completely disable the scar system to where there's no penalty for dying. So yeah, thanks Yondu. You are Mary Poppins, y'all. Alright, so all our survivors are holed up in a camping site in the woods. And immediately the place is overrun with zombies and you have to save Lori and Coral to drive away. Okay, even the uninitiated like myself can tell we just skipped over the entire first season. And screw all the other survivors, I guess. You only saved the two. And saving Lori and Coral from the zombies would be a lot easier if this game ever told you where your damn objectives are. This is the first level where you have access to guns, and they're pretty simple. Left trigger to aim and right trigger to shoot. Except now that you're actively zooming in on all the zombies' faces, you can see how garbage their character models are. They look like Unity asset flips, for crap's sake! The group heads off looking for new shelter, and the little girl Sophia goes missing and you chase her down. Now the game, that advertises that you can pick between stealth or combat, keeps throwing you into encounters where stealth is not an option. You have to fight through hordes of zombies with your combat that's complete shit. Well, maybe now that I've got a gun, killing the zombies will be a bit easier. It might be, if the pistol did any damn damage! If zombies can just shrug off multiple headshots now, this is anarchy! You find the girl, and then you have to fight off a shitload of zombies, which is only remotely possible because some of the zombies have grenades stuck in them to where they explode when they take damage. There are a few special enemies in the game like this, but the explodey guys are the only ones that really matter. Some walkers scream to alert nearby enemies, but the stealth is such garbage that, trust me, they all knew you were there regardless. Those things do nothing. There are big fat zombies that are basically meant to be mini-bosses because they have a lot of health, but the saving throw mechanic means that they're barely an actual threat to you. Late in the game, they armor up the enemies, which just means you have to land one heavy attack to kill them the same way as always, and bleeding eye zombies that deal more damage, except I still have basically 0 penalty for dying, so who the hell cares? Sophia glitches to clone herself, but then she disappears, and Coral gets shot next to a deer somehow. So the group goes to a farm with a dude who used to be a doctor, and you go to a school to get supplies so that Shane can clip into zombies. Ah, there's the game mill craftsmanship that I know. You may have noticed by now that you cycle through multiple playable characters on this adventure. All the characters play exactly the same. Same upgrades, no special powers, no weapon affinities. They even all have the exact same dialogue!
More ammo's always welcome.
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 Give me a break.
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 I have never seen a game so lazy that it covers a rotating cast of characters by giving everyone the exact same script. At the school, your guide gets attacked by zombies, so you have to pick between saving the girl or going for the supplies to save Coral.
You task man with judging man's world, but man's law is insufficient. The only true justice in this world is chance. Unbiased, unprejudiced, fair. Ooh. Tough luck, Coral.
And thus we are rid of both annoying child characters. It's for the best. Maggie's upgrade track soups up all the healing items. Not that you'd know that. The game doesn't let you check the upgrade tree to inform your decisions when saving people. Might have been a useful feature. Shane has a flashback to when Rick was in the hospital. I'm sure that the show used this to portray what great tragic friends they are, but here it's just an excuse to reuse the tutorial level. This is the stage where they introduce human enemies, but more important than that, this is the level where the game started to utterly collapse from game bugs. You see this hallway of zombies that I need to fight through? Yeah, this level doesn't give you a melee weapon, and it has bugged to where I can't draw my gun. I am dead serious. Swapping out for a new gun didn't help. Eventually I did find a baseball bat, except the game bugged to where I couldn't pick it up. This rendered the stage unwinnable because I need the bat to smash through the boxes that are blocking the exit. The camera glitched into Shane's head for this Halloween costume as a Ubisoft protagonist. The camera glitches in enclosed spaces to where your own character blocks your view of what you're shooting, and the human AI can't work this terrain to save its life. Enemies run in circles. Enemies just stand there staring at you. Enemies don't react at all to being shot. Enemies come in spawning through the walls. And such undetailed faces you'd think this was a $2 Steam shovelware asset flip. This is a short level, but it took me half an hour to catalog all the bugs! And when I stopped the game and came back to it later, the pause menu's bugged, not to register any button presses. I'm barely past the 1/3 mark. Isn't it a little early for the game to be shitting out its own kidneys? Herschel's keeping zombies in the barn, and if you don't know who Herschel is, join the club. Of all the characters on this cast list, Rick and Shane are the only two actual characters. The rest don't have any backstory, character traits, meaningful dialogue, or plot significance, and Carol, Daryl, and Dale didn't even get introductions. This level's actual objectives are for you to figure out how in the hell you're supposed to cross the bungled level terrain. I picked up the objective's fire axe through a wall, but it didn't count, and the fight with the swarm of walkers in the barn is a busted pain in the ass. But one of the game's breakages did work out in my favor. There are 12 skill points worth of pickups around the barn. I picked them up and I bought an upgrade and then I died. The skill points respawned and I got to keep the points and skills that I bought before I died. So as long as I buy an upgrade before reloading a checkpoint, I can just keep respawning the skill points and getting them over and over again. I spent about half an hour sitting here farming infinite skill points and getting almost all of the game's upgrades. Reduced stamina cost to all my attacks, reduced stamina cost to dodge rolls, stronger healing items, faster stamina recharges, faster movement while crouching, taking longer to be detected, more head damage while in melee, larger magazines. I got it all! And the rest of the game was still a frustrating slog through an often broken piece of crap. So imagine if I didn't break all of these upgrades. Luckily, the barn fight just broke itself into working out because all of the zombies glommed onto an invincible NPC while I picked them off. Oh, and Sophia's a zombie somehow, in case you were wondering. Rick and Shane can't stop fighting over Lori, so they go to the woods and you have to pick one to keep as the main character. I take Rick, and this triggers a boss fight where Shane pulls a shotgun out of his ass and starts dancing around because armed enemies do not move like any person that has ever handled a firearm.
It has to be this way. Don't you see that?
This fight was a pain in the ass because Shane's got that magic kind of shotgun that never ever misses, even at range, and also never has to reload. I ended up stun-locking him to death with the baseball bat because that's just a thing you can do with all the upgrades that I farmed in the last level. Oh, and just to drive home how useless the branching story thing is, Shane yells at me about how he's a better dad for Coral, who is dead. Well, he couldn't get the kid's name right. I shouldn't be surprised that Shane forgot he was dead. Shane dies, the barn's on fire now for some reason. Dale dies, I guess, because characters will cark it and screw you out of their upgrades without any heads up. And then we're at a prison, and Lori's pregnant all of a sudden. Yep, can't tell this was heavily abridged! You fight a shitload of zombies to clear out the prison and find some guy named Andrew, whom you can let stay as part of the group or kick him out of the prison. Even if you let him stay, there's a boss fight against him where he's mad that you threw him out of the prison. He tries to kill you anyway because he's just an insane dipshit. And the game has bugged to where I will not see another hint on a loading screen for the entire rest of the game. The hints were useless anyway, but still. There are some filler levels where the old guy gets guns and dumbass tries to overrun the prison so you shoot out the loudspeakers. It's meant to be a stretch where you fight the zombies with a new big-ass machine gun, until you find out the machine gun isn't all that effective on the zombies anyway. And then you boss fight Crazy Idiot by walking around a smoke-filled room hitting switches. Once you hit all the switches, you fight Andrew at next to 0 health, and with a melee weapon that hits so slowly that it's nigh useless, unless you knew to look for a baseball bat to actually have a chance at the combat. Seriously, the fire axe and the sledgehammer both move so friggin' slowly that they're virtually useless. And so is the machete that everyone just decides to poke with instead of swinging the blasted thing so it can barely hit a target. You know, I'm halfway through the game at this point, and so far the entire plot has boiled down to let's sit on ass until our headquarters is overrun. It's almost like the Walking Dead show is heavily character-driven, and boiling the story down to just its bare plot points removes literally everything that made it good. And it's almost like they couldn't even do that competently.
It is actually just astounding and amazing just how much The Walking Dead Destinies removes from the seasons of the show it adapts. Andrea is completely absent from the game. Carol's abusive husband is completely absent. The entire plot in Season 1 about finding a nursing home filled with nurses and residents and giving supplies to them, completely absent. Morgan's son Dwayne is completely absent from the game's adaptation of the show's very first episode, and Dwayne, he's kind of the emotional crux of that episode. The entire Season 1 finale involving the CDC and all the character development that goes on, completely absent. Otis, the hunter who shoots Carl by accident when looking at a deer, completely absent, which leads to one of Shane's biggest moments from the show falling flat because the game does not even get the choice right. Maggie and Glenn do not have a relationship in the game, and that is a key emotional arc in Season 2. Herschel going out drinking in Season 2 after the barn massacre, completely gone. Once again, missing a key emotional moment from the show. With Andrea absent from the game, all of the stuff that goes on between her and the governor in Season 3, completely absent. With Andrea absent from the game, part of Michonne's character arc from Season 3 is completely absent from the game. I have not even gotten to saying what is absent in the game regarding Season 4, but I should stop here because otherwise I could keep going and going.
I'm sorry to butt in here, but I gotta add my 2 cents to this as a fan of the original Walking Dead comics. You'd be surprised just how much the story of the comics deviates from what the show would end up doing. Walking Dead Destinies had a ton of material available to them on a silver platter. A huge example of this could have been with Andrea, since she dies relatively early on. But in the comics, she's one of the longest running, most beloved characters. She's very headstrong, super badass with a rifle, and she even becomes Rick's second wife later on. An entire scenario gift-wrapped for Destinies. And they don't use it, because Andrea's cut from the game completely. How about the fact that Sophia never dies in the comics? Oops! Her fate is one of the things you can't change in Destinies. Then there's Tyrese. In the comics, he joins Rick's group much sooner, and basically becomes his right-hand man after Shane. Oops! Tyrese isn't in the game. Pretty much the only comic scenario you can make in the game is having Lori survive past Judith's birth, which still leaves out the fact that during the governor's attack on the prison, she and Judith wind up getting gunned down. The developer of Walking Dead Destinies had so much material available to them that they didn't even need to come up with stuff that would have been excellent fan service too. And they used basically nothing!
Lori has her baby, Daryl is sent out to find supplies, and the store that has those supplies is infested with armed human enemies. And trust me, you'll be begging to go back to the zombie hordes once you've tried fighting people with the game's useless stealth and combat tools. You are meant to sneak around these soldiers, taking them out one by one, only it doesn't work. Because of the game's abysmal level layouts, sneaking around to enemies without getting spotted is just flat out not an option. You have Daryl's legendary crossbow for silent range takedowns because, after all, Daryl calls the crossbow the perfect silent weapon. Yeah, let's just see how the enemies react to the perfect silent weapon. I shot one isolated dude in the corner without being seen or heard. And the entire frickin' map was still instantly alerted to my position. I swear to crap that there actually isn't any stealth AI to speak of. You just get automatically detected by the entire frickin' level the second that you kill someone. And within seconds, I'm drowning in douchebags hosing me down with gunfire and have to fight the enemies off while backed into a corner with nothing but 5 arrows. You can't pick up and reuse arrows, by the way. The crossbow does nothing in this stupid-ass game. You effectively have 0 useful stealth tools. I can't even drop a flashbang to get away from the enemies because I keep getting shot before Daryl can finish pulling the damn thing. Also, this level decides that it needs to remind you of the name of your pain because it keeps flashing TWD Destinies at the bottom of the screen like the game itself can't remember what we're doing. After trying to get past the first 2 enemies undetected for like 20 minutes and failing, I just got lucky and beat everyone to death with a crowbar. The spirit of Gordon Freeman is alive and well. More so than it was in Hunt Down the Freeman. And I'm still not done because now you have to rescue a new lady, Michonne, which involves fighting more human enemies and also fighting abysmal frame rates. Yeah, this was my life for the remainder of the game. Daryl gets captured, and Michonne explains that she escaped from a town called Woodbury where an evil governor rules with an iron fist. You have a flashback level just walking around the town. Hey, anything to get this crap over with faster. Except walking with the governor, it was impossible not to notice analog controls have stopped working. Michonne only has 1 walking speed, no matter how much I move the control stick. And I found confirmation while editing that the game is supposed to have analog controls, so the basic fundamentals of game functionality are still prone to total breakages. and then another flashback level of Michonne looking for her sword. This is a stealth puzzle section that's not too bad to complete, not the least of which because I can apparently just stroll directly in front of a whole lineup of zombies and not be detected. Everything goes smoothly up until this part where you need to grab a bottle to distract one guard to slip past. One attempt, I threw a bottle to distract a different guard, which led to me getting inexplicably caught by said guard and frozen in place until they returned to their patrol route and caught me. There is absolutely zero in-game reason that should have happened, and then when I finally did come back to cause a distraction, this happened.
Backed him. Let's get you back to your room.
That, right there, that's the smoking gun. I threw a bottle at an enemy looking in the wrong direction that could not possibly have seen me through a solid wall and working cover, immediately detected my position and ran over to give me a game over. Caught red-handed, there is no stealth AI. The game just decides that you've been caught for any arbitrary reason at any time. Whenever the stealth enemies have to actually react to the player's actions, the whole damn game just melts down. Turns out that stealth AI isn't something that you can rush to fit Game Mill's production schedule. The governor has a daughter that's a zombie that he keeps locked up trying to cure her, I guess. So you get a choice to spare the daughter or not. I spared her, only for her to die anyway. See, the governor has a right-hand man, and it's T-Dog from the opening where Rick was stupid and let Merle trap him. And somehow T-Dog forces out the governor so that you have a level of him escaping from his own town. Just look at this abysmal frame rate. The game is running worse than a sprinter with one leg and a drinking problem. It keeps freezing for like a full second at a time. And this is after I forcibly closed and relaunched the game to make sure suspended play wasn't screwing with anything. This is just how the back half of the game runs on the cutting-edge PlayStation 4. Do you have any idea how maddening it is to be stuck for hours playing a game that runs this badly? What the hell is the game even struggling to run? These graphics would have been dated on an Xbox 360! Daryl and the governor are captured, so Rick's crew loads up weapons to mount a rescue. Michonne and the governor both get upgrade tracks in the Destinies menu, but all they upgrade are the katana and the sledgehammer. Two weapons that you'll never use. Lori goes out to scavenge weapons so they can copy-paste the whole map from Daryl's last mission, the same way the governor's mission was a copy-paste of the map from Michonne's mission. Yes, this game does love to furiously recycle entire stages to save time, the same way it likes running like crap and having enemy encounters that aren't even slightly balanced. Seriously, for this level you're handed a pistol, and watch how useless the pistol is. A normal-ass human with no body armor took 10 shots to the center body mass to put down. Who is this, Tupac? Did we run out of bullets and start loading our guns with frozen peas or something? The humans are now wearing armor to where they're impervious to stealth attacks, so you have no choice but to fight them grievously outnumbered with desperate shooting and flailing of melee attacks. And then when you get past them, you're dumped into a level where zombies spawn infinitely by the dozen while you desperately run around the room looking for objectives. I have no idea how they expect you to... Wait, what? This door's supposed to be open as a scripted event. I can't open... No. Son of a bitch. The level has glitched to where it's physically impossible to continue unless I restart. Meaning I have to fight the busted soldiers again. Daryl and the governor are thrown into a cage match and... Okay, what the hell do I do? I'm mashing the attack buttons. I'm mashing every button on the controller. The dodge roll is the only thing that works. How in the hell do you fight a boss without being able to attack? That's so friggin... No! I died and respawned, and now I can throw punches. The game bugged again to where I couldn't attack That's 2 levels that broke to be unwinnable in a row! And then Rick and friends just show up to save Daryl and the governor. You don't even get a level breaking into Woodbury, but you sure as hell get a level breaking out so we can use this Woodbury map for the 4th frickin' time in this game! Rick has to go around destroying 7 army trucks so the town can't come back after them, and you have to demolish these trucks while a massive horde of heavily armed enemies spawns infinitely. This fight is friggin' maddening. You are constantly being swamped with enemies that unavoidably shred your health down to nothing in mere seconds, unable to carry enough ammo to fight them off or carry more than 1 healing item at a time. And these human enemies are bullet sponges. It takes several seconds of concentrated fire to put down just one of them. So not only do you need to stay in one area focusing fire on one of 7 main objectives, while constantly breaking off to thin out the enemies, you also need to constantly run out to scavenge health and ammo. And this is all besides the fact that the gun combat is complete shit. Guns are hard to aim, the cursor barely moves, and the enemies constantly circle, strafe in random directions like they're hopped up on speed. Nobody designs enemy AI to work like this because nobody shoots a gun like this! Every time the gun combat kicks in, you just want to throw your controller across the room because it's so unbalanced and shitty. They just threw these levels together. You know, the governor said at the start of all this that there were 73 people living here, and for as many levels as I've been fighting these douchebags, you'd think they would be out of soldiers by now, just mathematically speaking. The heroes burn Woodbury to the ground, so much for the peaceful solution of destroying their weapons, and they take in a bunch of Woodbury survivors. But then some kind of zombie flu washes over the prison, seeming to very conveniently kill off all the Woodbury survivors, almost like somebody wrote themselves into a corner. You go look for guns and medicine via the game recycling the first level right down to playing the wrong chapter title, as you run into crazy stupid sniper man from the first level who takes non-stop easily avoided shots at you while you try to figure out where to go. There's a blessedly short and simple zombie-oriented stage where Glenn and Michonne get grabbed by somebody, and they just kind of assume it's T-Dog with zero evidence, and of course they're right. And that whole zombie flu plotline is just kind of forgotten about while T-Dog drives a tank up to the prison. And despite the fact that he explicitly wants the prison as a new hideout, he demolishes the fences keeping out zombies, ensuring that the base is useless to him as a hideout. Because the game's main theme seems to be that all the villains are just insane morons. Don't you just love how the final boss was clearly supposed to be the governor? Given that he got multiple levels worth of backstory and build-up, but I took the story choice that saved him on accident, so the boss is this complete nobody? Yeah, I turned the governor into a good guy so that he could do exactly nothing, not contribute to the plot in any minute way, and the game basically forgets that he even exists. Yay me! You're sent to go fight the tank with a piddly machine gun and a crowbar. Jeez, it's got to be near impossible fighting a tank with weapons that won't even scratch its armor.
Actually, it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, the tank is apparently made out of pizza boxes, because your gun tears through it pretty easily. The only problem, and the reason this fight took me half a friggin' hour, is that enemies with guns will spawn non-friggin' stop through the entire fight to where you're constantly getting your health shredded to dust and you never get a damn break. The strategy here is to just keep going between the 2 main ammo dumps and shoot enemies with guns the second that you notice them. I only stopped to spell this out so you can watch how badly this fight is running. This is unmodified gameplay footage off a PlayStation 4, and you'd think my editor was dying or the game's running on a potato PC. How does this look so atrocious? This is stuttering worse than a Tourette's patient at an improv show. This is where I finally figured out that one of the main problems I've been having with the gunplay is that there's an aim sensitivity option in the menus and it's turned to rock bottom by default, to where it's impossible to draw a bead on any of the enemies. And even when I changed that option, I'd keep checking the menu and find out the game had changed it when I wasn't looking. But a sensitivity option is not the only thing the game forgot about during this fight. My first crack at the tank boss, I was playing as Lori, and as soon as I died, I respawned as Carol. Slight problem, Carol is dead. Yeah, that seemingly pointless option where you can let Andrew stick around in the prison, that somehow determines whether Carol or Lori gets killed off. It is impossible to reach this point with both of them. Carol has long since ceased to be, and the game's upgrade menu even still lists Carol as being dead, but the game flat-ass forgot which character I kept alive, and now I'm playing as a corpse! Wow, this really is The Walking Dead. Also, I had to mute my TV because Carol's incessant whining during combat is nails on a chalkboard. After you kill the tank, there's a stealth section of Daryl sneaking to the tank to blow it up, only we know how much we can trust stealth in the crossbow, so I just got lucky and butchered everyone. And then Rick fistfights whoever the game has picked as the final boss, as the game tries to make it the most epic showdown ever against this virtually anonymous guy with no backstory, motivation, or build-up. This fight's only hard because zombies somehow keep walking through the fire that surrounds the arena to grab you so the boss can get free shots. Oh, and fire doesn't hurt the boss. You are playing as literally the only flammable character in the entire game. Eventually, T-Dog just exploded out of nowhere. I have no idea how I won this fight. Rick kills the boss, and this last level is still not over because now Michonne has to run through a tight maze of zombies to get to a tower and snipe zombies off of Rick, and then, come on, just end, you padded piece of shit! Michonne has to run out of the prison now. This final stretch of game is a perfect encapsulation of how literally nothing works the way it's supposed to. You're meant to just run past all these enemies for the exit to show that the prison's being overrun, but I glitched to being stuck in a wall, and the boxes are reinforced where it takes forever to smash through them. You're infinitely better off stopping to fight all the zombies instead. That's the way this whole game goes. You can tell what you're supposed to do, but the game doesn't work, so you have to perpetually improvise and bullshit your way to the end of every freaking level. Finally, the blasted thing ends as you get a brief montage of void of context still shots of all your living characters, and the game just kinda cuts off. You lost your house, we're not resolving that zombie flu sting. You want an ending or a story, then piss off and watch the show, 'cause we're done. And by the way, I stubbornly played the entire game on normal difficulty, and I never dropped down to easy a single time. There are no unlocks or achievements for playing on normal or hard. They knew this thing was a piece of shit. I don't know if it's just more fresh in my mind, but The Walking Dead Destinies pissed me off a lot more than Rise of Kong or Gollum did in the worst game of 2023 competition. Kong had abysmal maps that could leave you stranded for hours, but that's the kind of thing that walkthroughs can easily help you out with, and the combat was relatively easy. Gollum had piss-annoying stealth sections, a horrid story, and massive stretches where you do nothing, but there were so many broken encounters in The Walking Dead Destinies that it's kind of overriding my anger at Gollum's endless time filler. And Destinies is glitchier than either of its competitors, given that multiple levels bugged themselves unwinnable, and the entire second half was friggin' collapsing from non-stop frame rate problems. But then again, Walking Dead Destinies has an easy difficulty that probably would have neutered my complaints, and it might run marginally better on PS5, so Gollum is probably still the worst of the three, but that doesn't make Destinies any easier to sit through. The stealth flat-ass does not work, the combat is butchered to encourage you to use stealth, the stamina and scar systems flat-out cripple the player until you patch them out yourself, encounters feel haphazardly thrown together and unbalanced, loads of weapons are useless, and it runs like hot garbage. And for the game's selling point being its story, even I can tell the story is butchered to remove any and all actual meaning or intrigue, removing all character from its characters, and having people just show up with no backstory or purpose. And the game feels intentionally written vaguely to where the whole 6 or so story choices they included have next to zero impact. You know, since I saved 2 major villains and both proceeded to never come up again. You've also got to love how Rick versus Shane and the Governor are the only two storylines they actually cared about, since those are the only characters that get any build-up, and fighting the governor takes up at least a third of the campaign. Even if there was some love for the series behind the game's production, friggin' Game Mill's involvement pretty much torpedoed any potential the game had before it got off the ground. That's the real horror this Halloween. They ruin series you love, you don't realize they've struck until it's too late, their influence goes far beyond what you realize, and they just refuse to die. And that prospect is scarier than either of the zombie games I picked for Halloween.
I took your waifu's floofy son trick-or-treating. Your channel's lore is weird. Who the hell stuck an envelope in your trick-or-treat bag? Guess we'll find out what it is. A trick or treat. If the envelope will cooperate. The fuck is Shell Shock 2? Experience intense psychological horror, fear, and tension in a war that's worse than hell. Well, given that I've literally never heard of this game before, I'm guessing that the intense psychological horror just didn't happen. Oh good, it's from Rebellion, the guys who made Rogue Warrior. That won't backfire at all.
Happy Halloween.
Well, Rouge, I think your nephew Tails is becoming very mischievous as of late, and I think you should be very proud of him for that.
Well, now I am in a conundrum. What game do I review next? The garbage horror game or the interesting new Transformers game? Ow! Okay, 2 out of 3. Shit! Yeah, let's see if it's unanimous. Clap.